Welcome back to Real Talk with Susan Stone and Kristina Supler. We're full-time moms and attorneys bringing our student defense legal practice to life with real, candid conversations. Today's guest is Dr. Edward Dragan, founder and lead expert witness of School Liability Expert Group. That's a mouthful. Dr. Dragan consults and works as an expert in cases involving student injuries. Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate the time that you're giving me, Susan and Kristina. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us as a guest today. We're so pleased to have you. Dr. Dragan, can you tell us about the School Liability Expert Group? What exactly does this business do?
Sure. School Liability Expert Group started in 1993, actually. And I was working before that in the State Department of Education in New Jersey. And I was also the director of the Department of Special Services in a local school district in New Jersey. And I looked at what I was doing and I decided that I put together all of my background and expertise as a school administrator, a superintendent, and I had just received my doctoral degree in education administration and supervision. So I took a little time off and I developed my firm and got started by providing consultation directly to boards of education on issues involving the structure of their departments of special education. I did that at first, and then I was sitting at my desk one day and an attorney called me and he said, "Hey, Dr. Dragan, would you be interested in providing expert witness services for a case I'm working on?" And I really didn't know actually what an expert witness was at that point. And I said, "Well, tell me more about it. I'd like to hear what you have to say." Happened to be a special education case. And this was one in New Jersey that went before an administrative law judge. I researched the case, I reviewed it, and I went to testify. Then I thought to myself, I really like this. This is kind of interesting because it's a combination of my educational background, my background in teaching and administration. So I thought, wow, this is something I really want to develop. And I went back to school and I got a law degree from University of New Hampshire. And that was a specialty law degree in education administration. So that's really where it started. I had a small desk in a very small house in Lambertville, New Jersey.
Beautiful area. Very charming.
Love it here.
Love Lambertville. It's been a long time, but I'm familiar.
I have to add, I'm sensing quite a bit of synergy between Dr. Dragan and Susan.
We're going to talk about
background.
Dragan. Yeah. This is crazy, our parallels, because my practice, I started out as just a general litigator, and then I have always had a love of special education work, started doing that a couple days a week while I was an associate at a firm, and then met Kristina because a lot of my students were getting in trouble in a criminal area, and Kristina's got a criminal background. And then we branched out into Title IX and sexual assault and sexual harassment, and our practice continues to evolve. So you are in good company because it seems like we have a lot of parallels. I didn't know about that law degree with that educational concentration. I'm going to look that up. But let's start with our first question of the day. And you've really covered a lot of what you do serving as an expert witness. Can you tell us about the different areas that you serve as an expert witness?
Sure. Overall, the main area is education, administration, and supervision. So all of the subcategories come under that main umbrella heading. So under education administration and supervision, we deal with preschool issues where in many cases that we've had, unfortunately, where 3-year-olds were sexually abused by their caretakers or sexually abused by volunteers who were in the classroom with 3 and 4-year-olds. So it spans from preschool and daycare all the way through college and university. And the college and university cases that we deal with have to do also with Title IX issues. I mean, we've got several cases of alleged rape on college campuses. So what we do in those cases is we look at the policies and the procedures of organizations and institutions from preschool through college and university. Look at the policies and procedures first. We assess the standard of care in the field, and then review documents and other information that is sent to us from our client attorneys to determine whether or not the school or agency or institution met the professional standard of care or not. So that's basically what we focus on.
That's really interesting that you brought up Title IX, because Susan and I regularly serve as student advisors for complainants and respondents in Title IX cases across the country. We actually do a lot of work with college students, of course, but high school students as well, because Title IX has such broad application now. And you mentioned working with schools on policies, and I believe you also do training for school administrators on issues like sexual abuse and harassment. Can you just tell us a little bit about what does proper training look like for school administrators to prevent sexual abuse, and particularly abuse of students with disabilities, our most vulnerable students?
Right. Well, one of the things that I have found out is that once a year at the beginning of the year, training is never enough. And many of the schools that we deal with say to us when we ask about their training, yeah, we got our staff together, and at the beginning of the school year, we spent an hour going through our policies, and we told the staff, well, you're not supposed to have any kind of interaction that could be determined as sexual behavior between yourself and students. And so that's not enough. That's clearly not enough, because in those situations, in those cases that we deal with, schools did that and there were still issues.
So what's the answer?
Well, I'm not sure if we can prevent absolutely interactions that may be inappropriate rather, between students and staff. One of the things that I know for sure is that students and staff keep these things a secret. And they're not going to be going out and telling other staff members or other students that they're in a sexual relationship that's inappropriate. So it is kept a secret. And however, many of the cases that we have worked on involved a student who bragged to a fellow student, hey, I'm having sex with the science teacher. And it was that fellow student that to somebody else and reported it. And then it was investigated and found that the school wasn't supervising that science teacher appropriately. Student was taken out of class and taken to the science room and abused. So, yeah, I don't think we can absolutely prevent, but schools can do a lot more to appropriately train on a regular basis, to
more frequent training. It sounds like that's key.
Frequent training, and let staff and students know what to look for. You know, what are the signs?
Another parallel, because we actually also handle representing students against professors and defending professors accused, because we see both situations. We see where students, especially in college level, the boundaries are violated and
Right.
it results in sexual harassment and or discrimination. And we see a rise in those professors and faculty getting falsely accused. And I would add a third category, that gray area, where does it rise to discrimination or harassment? Maybe not. Was there unprofessional behavior? Possibly. And those grays are really difficult to wrestle with. But Kristina, can you want to poke at some post-pandemic bullying cases?
Hmm.
What do you
Yeah, Dr. Dragan, Susan and I, post-pandemic, we have seen such a significant rise in cyberbullying. And we regularly defend students accused of bullying. And I noticed on your website, you had written a blog about how to distinguish between bullying versus just student conflict in general. Because after all, we know that not every argument between students rises to the level of bullying. And bullying is such a phrase that's used all over today in so many different contexts. And I think it's sometimes hard for parents to know what's the difference. So what would you say, or what are some key points for parents to keep in mind on how to tell the difference?
And
Conflict
Dr.
versus
Dragan, I
bullying.
want to challenge you because I know with our parents, they like it when we give it to them neat in a box. So if you could provide a few short sentences to say, give them the barometer, bullying or just conflict or mean behavior. Go.
Okay. Conflict or mean behavior typically is something that may occur one time between two students. However, if that behavior continues on an extended basis, then it can rise to the level of bullying. So bullying hurts a student on a regular basis. It is something that predominantly is done by one or two students, but it's continual on a regular basis. So that's how I would distinguish the two. Conflict might be, I want to sit at that table, but no, I don't want you to sit here at the cafeteria table. So that may be conflict. Might never happen again.
What about excluding a child? I'm talking from a birthday party or a bar or bat mitzvah.
That, yeah, that's a horrible thing. And
Every parent's had to deal with the crying child and saying, "Oh no, people like you."
So I have a personal experience with that.
Do share.
Yes,
To all our listeners, we're going to
Yeah.
get personal with Dr. Dragan. Go for it.
So my wife and I adopted 3 biracial children in a all-white community in New Jersey. I won't go into the politics, but you could probably guess the politics once I describe this. My daughter was in first grade. There was a birthday party of one of the children in the first grade class. Everybody received an invitation except my daughter.
Oh my gosh.
And she was the only
So hurtful.
she was the only dark-skinned child in the class. And she came home and she said, Jody's having a birthday, but I wasn't invited. I really want to go to her birthday. And we realized right away what it was. So my wife actually, to resolve the issue and to try to teach the parent something positive, called the parent right away and said, hey, Tina would really love to have Jody come to visit us and spend some time at our house. The birthday party was going to be in a week from then. So Jody's mom was hesitant, but she was put on the spot because my wife invited Jody to come to the house. So parent brought Jody over. And after that, Jody had a good time with my daughter, Tina, at the house. And then she was invited to the party. So one of the things that we learned from that, and I hope that the parent learned, is that there's so much more to learn about people. And so she learned a lesson from that as well. And now she has 3 of her own children and is a terrific mom.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I'd like to delve a little deeper on the issue, your work regarding students with disabilities. Susan and I do a lot at the beginning. Susan mentioned her special education practice, and we still do a lot of work advocating for students with disabilities who are receiving various types of special education services. Can you tell us, I mean, because we often are called by parents who are just distraught because their child hasn't been serviced. The child perhaps has suffered injuries or even experienced restraint and seclusion at school. So have you done work in this type of area? What can you share with us?
My firm has done a lot of work in that area, and I in particular have done a lot because of my background as a teacher of special education and director of special ed and all that. The main thing that parents need to understand is that the individualized education program, the IEP, for their child is the contract between the school and the parent, excuse me, that will stand up in any kind of an administrative hearing. A lot of times I find that school districts are not forthcoming with parents. They don't let the parents know that the Individuals with Disability Education Act is a dual advocacy act. They don't tell the parents that the school district is supposed to inform the parents that if they don't agree with what the school is proposing to put into the IEP, that the parents can contest that.
Well, we always say nothing's better than an IEE and more of a private assessment at the public expense where we can challenge those services.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's, again, something that I advise parents that if you don't agree with the assessment and evaluation of the school personnel, you really need to go outside in order to get an evaluation.
We agree. We could talk to you forever, Dr. Dragan. There are so many different aspects of your business, but it's been a deep pleasure. For our listeners out there, we are at the end of our show and we do appreciate you coming on. So, Kristina, why don't you do our famous wrap up?
Thank you again for joining us, Dr. Dragan. It was such a pleasure. And thank you to our listeners. We appreciate you listening to Real Talk with Susan and Kristina. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our show so you never miss an episode and leave us a review so that other people can find the content that we share here. You can also follow us on Instagram. Just search our handle @StoneSupler. And for more resources, visit us online at studentdefense.kjk.com. Thank you so much for being a part of our Real Talk community, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Susan and Kristina.